Well, if you guys are wondering where I'm at right now, I'm not even in the country. I'm currently down south visiting family. But does that stop me from doing all these awesome reviews for all of you? The answer is no. So I had to catch up to what we missed so far. So the first things first, we're going to review, of course, the latest New Japan show that took place on the what? On the 27th, which was on Thursday, where we only will focus the A block and B block. However, the main event features a 8-year long battle between both Will Ospreay and Kaguchika Okada. The obvious question does remain: can Will Ospreay defeat his white whale, Okada? Well, we'll find out. And then we move on, of course, with Major League Wrestling. As you know, things have been going a little differently with, of course, what's been going on with MLW, with Alex Kane being the champion, the Bumaye Fight Club gaining new members, the whole thing. Then we go with Impact Wrestling. As you know, we still come off from Slammiversary, but we're entering Emergence. Anything could go. We have a brand new Knockouts World Champion. We have Tag Team Champions, everything else. We'll see how that turns out. Then, of course, we go with Ring of Honor. As you know, we are also, since Death Before Dishonor, things have been building up. However, they've just set up a brand new ROH World Television Eliminator Tournament again. We'll find out who will be Samoa Joe's next opponent he will face. Then we jump in with AEW Rampage with a tag team battle royale. Changes in one of the matches. We have the Kingdom in action, and I believe we have, I forgot what the main event was, but we'll get to that. And then finally, who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up. But before we do anything else, we also will be doing the news updates. We have tons of updates we're going to be catching up all the way from this past Thursday all the way to now. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. So if you like this channel, please click subscribe. Tell your friends all about us. And also, if you like this episode, please give us a like and give us some good comments. But let's get started with our very first review. Now we continue with more on New Japan Pro Wrestling with the G1 Climax. Now this is a very interesting one because we have the A block and the B block in this particular day. This is day 9 of the G1 since it started a couple of weeks ago, but we'll see how this one turns out. Now our very first match is starting from the A block. We have Chase Owens and Shota Umino. This was a very interesting matchup. Now, you know how Shota Umino is when he comes out into the audience, but Chase Owens wasn't going to let him to be in the ring. However, we know Shota Umino, he's the kind of guy who's not going to give up no matter what. But one thing's for sure, he did end this match with the Death Rider on Chase Owens, giving him the win. So he currently right now has 4 points. So does Chase Owens? No, he has 6 points. So he basically has 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, I believe. Yes. So that's how it. No, 2 draws actually. My bad. But we'll see how it goes and further into the G1. Next up for the B block, we have Taichi and Yoshihashi. Very interesting matchup. I really thought it was a very, very solid match. However, it took. There were moments where, of course, Taichi seems like he was about to pull off the Black Mephisto on Yoshihashi, but no. Taichi was able to overturn it and win the match with the actual Black Mephisto, giving him his win. This is his third win so far. I believe he has maybe 3 losses. I believe three or 4 losses, somewhere around there. But yes, as for Yoshihashi, he currently still has 4 points with just 2 wins so far. Now, our next match, back to the A block. We have Kaito Kiyomiya taking on that piece of garbage, the so-called future ace, Gabe Kidd. Now you know Gabe Kidd, the SOB likes to attack his opponents before they get into the ring. They're warming up, thinking this is his way of winning the match. But Kaito Kiyomiya, and I pardon my language to everyone for what I say, Kaito Kiyomiya is not going to take any shit from Gabe Kidd. You know why? He has been declared as the savior of Noah, but for Gabe Kidd, he'll view him like F Noah. That's what he will think of him. But this thing started all the way outside the ring until they finally take it into the ring. But this match ended in a count out. But you know this is not over between them. I wouldn't be surprised if Gabe Kidd, if he has a load of balls to ask for a match against Kiyomiya. Better be careful what you wish for, kid, because that's exactly what Kiyomiya did with Okada. You don't want that, but it's your funeral. Now back to A block. We have the Great Okan taking on Tangaloa. Interesting matchup. The one thing that really was interesting is that Great Okan only has 1 win, and all his matches were all losses. But Tangaloa was able to overturn everything when he applied his finisher, ape shit, and that was it. However, Kevin Kelly and Chris Carlton does made a valid point that I did not notice. Because of the losses that he has now, it's more likely that Khan is done. I mean, it's G1 Climax. It's out. Trust me. I mean, if they're saying so, I have to say I agree with them, because this is a huge disappointing loss. I mean, I remember he was a fan favorite when they first started out, but it doesn't seem like he's the fan favorite anymore. If I was Khan, I would reinvent myself. Now, our next match, we have Yota Tsuji versus Hikuleo. Another good match. Now, keep in mind, these two guys are kind of rookies in certain capacity. I mean, Tsuji, he is a fan favorite by many of the New Japan fans. Hikuleo, he has been looking for a way to make a name for himself. I mean, he did make a name himself when he defeated Kenta for the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. But this is the G1. But he was able to apply the Godsend onto Yota Tsuji to pick up the win. However, Tsuji, his status in the G1, according to what both Kevin Kelly and Chris Carlton mentioned, he's barely in the G1. However, the obvious thing is, can he take another loss or try to pick up a win to stay alive? Now, do I believe he has the capacity to jump in and try to win the whole thing? I don't know. But it's going to take a miracle for him to do that. I mean, it has been done before, but we'll see how that runs. Now, back to the B block. We have Kenta versus El Phantasmo. Now, if you guys haven't forgotten, El Phantasmo was a member of the Bullet Club until he was excommunicated by Finlay, Chase Owens, and Kenta. And Kenta was someone that Phantasmo thought that he would go up at arms with, but however, that didn't happen. But Kenta, the most so-called person he thinks he's so clever, thought he can take out El Phantasmo. Now, there was one thing that Kevin Kelly and Chris Carlton did. They made a point. This match didn't even start. It was going around the audience, Kenta beating up El Phantasmo. But the obvious question was this barking orders from either Finlay or was it that Weasel ghetto? I would say it's probably both. That's how I would picture it. But no matter what, I think one thing was surprising. This match ended in 19 seconds when El Phantasmo applied an inside cradle to Kenta. Kenta looks more like something hit him in the head. Like, what the f happened? Like, had no clue how this happened, but he will not accept this loss. Even the Young Lions tried to separate them twice, but you probably rest assured El Phantasmo got his little piece of payback against Kenta. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do see them in a match down the line, one-on-one. That is something we could expect. Now back to A Block. We got Ren Narita versus Sonata. Interesting matchup, Ren Narita, the so-called son of Strong Style, taking on our current IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I have to say this was a pretty good match, but I don't know. Sonata seems like the one person who could possibly win the entire tournament. It's been a long time since we see that, but he was able to pick up the dead fall onto Sonata and onto Ren Narita, and he picked up his next 2 points. Currently, he is in the lead with 10 in the A Block, so that's a good thing. Now, our main event has been an 8-year journey. Will Ospreay, who hasn't been able to defeat his white whale, we're talking about the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. Now, they have, if you guys remember, on certain occasions, but the obvious thing is, Will Ospreay did say that he's not 100% sure if he could beat Okada under 20 minutes. And I mean, for Ospreay to defeat Okada is everything for him. He was unable to defeat him a few times before, even before he turned his back on him. But somehow, some way, Will Ospreay finally fulfilled his duty when he applied his Stormbreaker to pick the win against Okada, and it became a big deal. But during the post-match promo, he's saying that he's going to bring back the golden age of New Japan. But he said, stop relying on guys like Ren Narita, Yota Tsuji, and Shota Umino. He feels that they didn't. I think he misinterpreted. Like, they did. He said they didn't want this. They did not want to be part of the Three Musketeers because they hate each other. That's the problem. I mean, previous Musketeers, we have seen them. They can get along great, but not these guys. So that's the problem that I feel that Will Ospreay misinterpreted. If I was him, I wouldn't piss off Tsuji or Narita or Umino. That's the one thing I do. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of matches. I think the next one we'll be doing is coming up this Sunday. We have C and D Block taking place. We'll find out soon enough. So I think that's it for New Japan. Let's move on with MLW Fusion. Okay, MLW Fusion 175. Our opening match features the one-man militia, Matthew Justice versus Ricky Shane Page, better known as RSP, a member of the Calling and one half of the MLW World Tag Team Champions. Now, Matthew Justice took out the Calling Stooges. They've been lurking around. That kind of helped out. But however, you know how Matthew Justice is. This guy, he's a freaking animal. You know how he will bring in some toys like doors, ladders, and chairs. Well, he was on top of the ladder, and then boom, he missed, and then RSP applied the Raven effect to pick up a win. So that ends in that way. Now, Delmi Exo, as you know, she's been congratulating now since she's been double champion, ever since winning the WXW Women's Champion, which is a title from base out of Germany. Apparently, she was confronted by Becca. She feels that Delmi Exo is an insult to women's wrestling around the world because, I have to agree with Becca. No disrespect to Delmi. She has never been in Germany before, and I think that's the thing. Now, I don't know how her workload is down in Germany. I wouldn't be surprised right now that if Delmi Exo is working on her German visa to work down there and for WXW, that's something I possibly would expect. But however, everything went down south for Becca when her official #1 fan, Love Doug, showed up. But Becca was trying to not have any of it because her primary focus is feeling that Dummy EXO is an insult. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, we do see an interview with Tracy Williams. As you know, he is now participating in the Opera Cup, but in this process, he'll be facing against the biggest a-hole that we know, Tony Deppen. So Tracy Williams did say that he has beaten Tony Deppen before. We'll see if he can do it again. Now, Mr. Saint Laurent has announced that, of course, that the #1 free agent, as he says, will be in MLW at Fury Road, and that is none other than the so-called king of the death match, indie god himself, Matt Cardona. So that's going to happen later on, I believe. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, Jacob Fatu, as you know, he has been paying attention recently what RSP has mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if this whole thing is all about RSP trying to not only get under the skin of Jacob Fatu, but also to obtain the MLW National Openweight title. So that's something that is a possibility to look at. Now, we do have a Bumaye Fight Club tryout match. We have Jay Boji, and hopefully I pronounced it right, taking on Mr. Thomas. But I have to say, this guy Boji really, put up a good fight. I think that also led to surprise with Mr. Thomas. However, Mr. Thomas applied a powerbomb on Boji to pick up a win. But however, because he was impressed with this match, he is now officially a member of the Bumaye Fight Club. So it seems that the Bumaye Fight Club are now gaining memberships. Since now they're back, it's been revealed the primary benefactor is none other than boxing promoter Don King. So, yeah. But now, Willie Mack, as you know, he'll be facing against Alex Kane. Well, apparently, Willie Mack is not too fond of Kane for his disrespectful regarding calling him fat and all this other stuff. But, Willie Mack, he's not going to take any crap from him. But we'll see how that goes out. But, however, Alex Kane saying that he is not even on his level and all this and that. This was part of the end of the show where he says that, he's not level. All he does is eat cheeseburgers and chicken nuggets. That's very disrespectful for him. But he did state that he's planning to take the fight to other wrestlers, and their target was Mexico. Now, I'm going to say something about that. He disrespected the Mexican wrestlers the last time he was there, when, of course, MLW was under the control of Cesar Duran, who we haven't seen for quite some time. But let's see how the Mexican luchadors treat him, because they're probably going to say that he's full of crap. Now, moving on. Our next match is the Opera Cup Stage 1. We have Tony Deppen versus Tracy Williams. And now there's going to be a lot of technical aspects of this match, which is something that's been, of course, unique in every aspect when we watch. But it was Tracy Williams who picked up the win when he applied an old school pile driver onto Tony Deppen. So that means Tracy Williams won this stage of the Opera Cup. That means he will probably be facing against Davey Boy Smith Jr. or so. So we'll see who will walk out as the Opera Cup tournament winner. So I think that's it for MLW. I believe it's time for Impact Wrestling. Alrighty then, Impact Wrestling. It's been almost a week and a half or two since Slammiversary. Our opening match, we have Trinity Fatu teaming up with Danny Luna. Now, this was a match that was called out by the former Knockouts Tag Team Champions, The Coven, Kylan King, and Taylor Wilde. Now, As you know, they probably Taylor Wilde wants a piece of Trinity since she has the one thing that possibly she desires, which is, of course, the Knockouts World Championship. However, seeing Luna and Trinity work together in this match was very interesting. They were able to stay on the same page, but however, we see moments where, of course, outside interference, when the ref is not looking, we see Kylie King involved, but that didn't work. But however, it was Trinity who was able to pick up the win when he pinned Taylor Wilde, and that was it. However, we did saw the return of the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo. Now, we haven't seen her since Slammiversary, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out that possibly she probably would ask for a rematch. And I do believe she does have a rematch clause, so that means she'll be challenging for the Knockouts Championship at Emergence. So we'll be waiting for that. Now, after what happened last week with Dirty Dango and that rotten moron Johnny E. Bravo showed up, well, apparently, Dirty Dango going out saying crap behind his back. I wouldn't be surprised if Santino is involved, but we'll see what happens till then. Now, our next match, we have a loser leave Impact match. Now, if you guys remember, for a while, Johnny Swinger was supposed to win 50 matches to get a title shot. However, the more gave him a much better stipulation. All he needs one match. So he decided to put himself in a match against his protege, Zicky Dice, and the stipulation is loser leaves Impact Wrestling. Well, unfortunately, it turned out to be Zicky Dice. Swinger used the ring ropes to win, and now he gets a title shot, so that's what he wants. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, Santino, as you know, has been in the back having a nice conversation with the former digital media champion, Joe Hendry, but he also talked to Yuya Uemura. Now, it turns out that during the BTI show, Uemura picked up the win against Kenny King. So basically, Uemura does have an opportunity in his pocket to challenge for the Digital Media Championship against Kenny King. So apparently, Santino, since he is the director of authority, he decided to make it a three-way between Uemura, Hendry, and Kenny King for the Digital Media Championship. So that is something we will expect. Now, our next match, we have Giselle Shaw versus Masha Slamovich. Now, this came around after last week when we saw Giselle Shaw disgusted to see Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich become the Knockouts Tag Team Champions. But however, this match set. But I knew there was going to be outside interference coming up. But in this case, it was Giselle Shaw with a knee strike onto Slamovich to pick up the win. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Giselle Shaw issues a challenge along with Savannah Evans for the Knockouts Tag Team titles. That's something we could expect. Now, the war between both Frankie Kazarian and his wife Tracy Brooks against Eddie Edwards and his wife Alicia is far from over. So I don't think this is going to be a very ending battle between both sides, but that's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see which couple walks out supreme. Now, our next match, we have Moose, Brian Myers taking on Time Splitter Kushida and Alex Shelley. I have to say, pretty good match. Very awesome dynamics. As always, Time Splitter has been one of the most impressive tag teams I've always watched since they were going to New Japan. But however, it was Shelley who picked up the win with the shell shock onto Myers to pick up the win. But however, post-match, Bully Ray shows up out of the blue, and then of course Josh Alexander. Then Leo Rush joined, decided to side with Bully Ray, Moose, and Myers. But here comes the former X Division champion, and Shelley's tag team partner, Chris Sabin, and it became a full-blown war. But however, Leo Rush got what he wanted, got himself beat up, so that's his fault. Now, Alan Angel, since he stepped away um, the from the design, he is now becoming a rock star. But apparently, another rock star is calling him a wannabe, and that is none other than he got kids. That's right, Heath is calling him a wannabe rock star, but it's Alan Angels who's saying the same thing, that he's calling Heath a wannabe rock star. But we'll see which one is the real rock star. Next up, we have Mike Bailey versus Zachary Wentz. Now, this happened about a week ago when, of course, the Rascals, after their constant interference in the tag team division, they were kicked out. So Zachary Wentz ended up in the match against Bailey. Of course, there was going to be interference coming from Miguel out of nowhere, but unfortunately, Zach applied a spray paint, then a DDT onto Bailey to pick up the win. So I figured that was going to be the end of it. Now, our main event is Eric Young versus Nick Aldis. Now, their history goes long ways. It was Eric Young who defeated Nick Aldis. At the time, he was known as Magnus. And this is a very interesting matchup. However, I was so impressed by this match. But it was, of course, a pile driver by Eric Young to pick up the win. Now, as soon as he won the match, apparently Diener, along with Khan, showed up, and he chokeslammed Eric Young 3 times, sending a direct message to Eric Young. Now, keep in mind, if you remember, Eric Young was known as the leader of the Violent by Design, but now it's called The Design. So we'll see how this turns out. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have a match at Emergence. So we'll see about that. So I think that's pretty much it what we have for Impact Wrestling. So we'll go and move on with Ring of Honor. Okay, Ring of Honor. So let's get started. Our opening match is a Pure Wrestling rules match. For our judges, we feature Jerry Lynn and Jimmy Jacobs, but the third judge was none other than, of course, the wrestler Katsuyori Shibata. So it's great to see him doing that. Now our opponents, it's none other than Eli Izum and then Josh Woods. Now Josh Woods, he is very much in the Pure Rules style. However, he decided to apply the move from Katsuyori Shibata. He was sending a direct message, and I know for a fact Shibata does not like what he sees. I'm sure he gets the message, but it was, of course, Josh Woods who picked up the win by applying a submission onto him. Now, as soon as the post-match started, that weasel of attorney, Mark Sterling, goes out of his way saying, this and that about Josh Woods, like how he is a 4-time collegiate. Who wasn't? But, of course, it doesn't take a genius to know that him opening his mouth was that he wants Shibata to put the ROH Pure Wrestling title on the line against Josh Woods. Do you think Shibata is going to say no? The answer to that is hell no. So it will happen next week, so we'll see about that match. I can't wait to see it. Now, Trish Adora, as you know, was giving an interview by Lex in here recently. Trish had some setbacks recently, but however, she is treating this now as a site of redemption. So that's exactly what she's going to do. Her match was against Vita Von Star, who you may recognize during the ROH times. She was a member of the Righteous. I'm surprised that she's not involved with them. But however, it was a big lariat by Trish Adora to Vita Von Scott and Star into this match. So she found her little bit of redemption. So we'll see how her progress goes from there. Now, our next match is a ROH six-man tag team titles. We have the Iron Savages, Boulder and Bronson, along with Jack Jansen taking on the members of the Mogul Embassy, Brian Cage, Bishop Khan, and of course, Teo Leona. But man, this one was a freaking hoss fight till the end. You probably would have guessed that would have been great. But however, there was a bit of a pedigree made by Bishop Khan onto Jackson and retained the titles. But nonetheless, it was a good hoss fight. But the obvious question does tell, is there any team that is capable of defeating the Mogul Embassy? Well, we'll see how that rolls up. Next up, we got Layla Hirsch taking on Becca. This match ended in less than 4 minutes or so until Layla Hirsch applied a pump kick in her face and boom, ended like that. Next up, we do have an interview with Lexi Lear. As you know, she is able to be successful to win the against Willow Nightingale, but however, she is sick and tired of getting boring matches, so she's asking if she doesn't get what she wants Lexi to be involved. I mean, she's not a wrestler, she's an interview, for Christ's sakes. Now, our next match, we have the Renegade Twins, Robin and Charlotte, taking on Tiara James and JC. Of course, the Renegade Twins were going to win this one because they're well known in ROH and, of course, AEW. But they applied a, what was it they call it? The swing blade heart attack onto Tiara James to pick up the win. Now, our next match is for the ROH Women's World Title Proving Ground match. We have Athena versus Christina Marie. Pretty good match, but however, it was Athena who walked out as the victor when she knocked out Christina Marie. Then once again, with her attitude, taking out every wrestler. So someone needs to stop her. But the obvious question, who will that be? Now, next match, we have Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams taking on the Kingdom. I'd say pretty good match. You know, I mean, these two teams know each other pretty well inside and out, so you probably think this is going to be a good match. But however, it was of course the Proton Pack onto Titus that was taking him out and gave Bennett the opportunity to pin him to pick up the good win. Now, our next interview, we have Stokely Hathaway and Samoa Joe. If you guys remember what happened last week, things have gone a little crazy. Joe, I don't know if he threatened Stokely to ensure that he doesn't lose the world title, the world television title, but we'll see how that turns out. But yeah. Next up, we got one of the elimination matches for the ROH World Television title. We have JD Drake versus Christopher Daniels. Now, Daniels is no stranger into the world television title picture, but however, he was very impressive with this match, especially when he takes on a guy like JD Drake, a blue collar wrestler, when he applied the best moonsault ever, and that's how it ends. So that's how it goes. So he advances. So the real question, who will be his opponent? Next up, we have Lee Moriarty teaming with Big Bill to take on a couple of guys, Gabriel Honda and Adrian Soriano. Now, you can guess that this match was going to fall in favor with, of course, Lee Moriarty and Big Bill until Big Bill applied a chokeslam on Soriano, giving them the win. Next up, we have three matches for the ROH World Television Title Eliminator. Our first match we have is Tony Nese versus Cheeseburger. Now, Tony Nese, once again, with his little rant saying that people need to stop eating cheeseburger, but of course, Cheeseburger is not going to just stand by and let someone like Tony Nese to get it all. But I knew that sooner or later in this particular match that weasel of attorney Sterling was going to get involved, and that's exactly what he did because he saw how this match was going to end. However, they were able to apply a handle driver onto cheeseburger for Tony Nese to advance. So we'll see how that turns out. Our next match, we have Anthony Henry taking on Gravity. I have to say, pretty good match. Gravity, who's been his popularity growing because A, he's impressive, and B, he is the younger brother of Bandito. But man, seeing the strength of Gravity just like his brother never ceases to amaze me. But it was Gravity with a diving body splash that allowed him to advance. Now, our final match in this World Television Title Eliminator, we have Serpentico versus Shane Taylor. Of course, Serpentico is small, skinny, was going to lose this match against a much bigger opponent like Shane Taylor. He applied a big splash onto him to pick up the win. Last time he did not make it to the finals, but we'll see how that turns out. Now, our main event, we have the Trustbusters, Jeeves K, Sonny Kiss, and Slim J taking on Dalton Castle and the boys so you know how this goes with the Trustbusters. However, Dalton Castle, he's seeking a redemption after he got screwed at Death Before Dishonor. But he did get his redemption when he applied the batarang onto Jeeves K to pick up the win. So the obvious question is with Dalton Castle, where does he go next? Well, he can go anywhere. I mean, he could get another shot at the World Television title or the Ring of Honor title. I don't know, but we'll see. So I think that's it for Ring of Honor. So let's move on with AEW Rampage. Okay, AEW Rampage opened up with Tag Team Battle Royale. I mean, there was a lot of names. I mean, of course, we're going to have guys like Matt Menard and Cool Hands of JSA, The Butcher and the Blade, a whole lot. But let's skip ahead. The one team that walked out was a very impressive team during the blind elimination tag team tournament. That is Big Bill and Brian Cage. Now, why is that? Now, people can say this. These guys only had a couple of matches. They're not a steady team. Now, I would say yes, because we have witnessed two friendly misfires from both of them. I mean, Brian Cage accidentally took up Big Bill, and then Big Bill to Brian Cage. But they were able to eliminate the Butcher out to become our winners. But however, they will be facing FTR. So the FTR will have their work cut out for them. So we'll see how that rolls. Now our next match, we have Commander, along with Alex Brahantes, taking on Kip Sabian along with his wife Penelope. Now, of course, in this match, Penelope was going to get involved one way or the other to please her husband, Kip Sabian. However, Commander was not going to give up that easily, but he continues to surprise us as always. But the one thing that surprised me is when he applied a springboard Canadian Destroyer. Now, you heard me right. A springboard Canadian Destroyer. I was impressed. But, however, he followed up with the springboard Shooting Star Press. And that's how he picked up the win. That's why everybody loves Commander. He is the man who can do some incredible things. So he picked up the good win. Next up, we have the Kingdom, Matt Bennett and Matt Taven. Without the presence of the so-called lady, the First Lady of Wrestling, Mariah Kanellis, they take on a couple of guys named Hidden Buckland and Magnum J. Lee. Now, I can say that this match ended in the Kingdom's favor because they are well known. They did apply a Proton Pack to Battle and walked out as the winners. So we'll see where they go from here. I wouldn't be surprised if they definitely challenge for the AEW World Tag Team title. So that is a possibility. Now our main event, we have a huge implication. Two former AEW Women's Champions. We're talking about the native beast Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida. Two women, if you guys remember clearly, it was Hikaru Shida who dethroned Nyla Rose back in 2020 for the AEW women's title. And Hikaru Shida was declared the third ever champion of that title. And this goes back. But of course, Nyla Rose didn't come alone. She had Marina Shafir to get involved. But however, Shida took care of her completely. But it took only not one but two katanas to try to take Nyla Rose to pick up the win. However, as soon as this match was over, the Outcasts, more specifically Toni Storm, along with Soho, Ruby, and Saraya showed up. So most likely we'll see Hikaru Shida the challenge for the AEW Women's World Title. So we'll see where that goes from there. I think that's pretty much it for AEW. Now it's time for our next review and final review, which is of course NXT Level Up. Okay, who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up? Let's find out. Our very first match, we have Ikemen Jiro taking on Damon Kemp. Now, certain implications to tell is how is Damon Kemp is ever since he lost to the man who thought that it was a fluke on many occasions, losing Eddie Thorpe in an NXT Underground match. Well, he seems like he is trying to reinvent himself, but however, Ikemen Jiro, who we know that the power of the jacket has always helped them in this match, but in this case, it wasn't that. He applied a very, very powerful suplex to pick up the win. So I have to say Damon Kemp is trying to redeem himself in his own way, but he's still the same a-hole that we know. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, before our next match, we do see an interview with a newcomer. I think her name is Carmen Petrovic, who has a martial arts status. Basically, she knows what to do, but her opponent she feels is Ivy now. So basically, she is feeling not intimidated or, how do I say, concerned over Ivy now. But however, Ivy now, as you all know, is trying to deal with the sudden disbandment of Diamond Mine. As you know, that her brothers Julius and Brutus are out, so she has to go on her own. So she has to figure this one out. But I figured that this match was going to be good for Ivy now to reinvent herself, that she needs to rely on herself for the time being, because many people have often talked about she should be reaching for the top, and I have to agree with that. But nonetheless, it was the Dragon Sleeper that never seems to fail her one way or the other. She was able to pick up the win against Petrovic. One just like that, she just tapped out and it's done. Now, our main event, we have Duke Hudson taking on the so-called lawyer type, whatever he is, Luca Crucifino. You probably can guess it was going to be a good match. However, Dale Hell was about to cross the line, but luckily Professor Chase tried to stop him. But, oh man, the athleticism of Hudson has always been impressive. But he was able to apply a crucifix bomb to pick up the win against Crucifino. So Chase U has picked up a good win, so we're seeing them closer. Don't forget, Dale Hill will be at the Great American Bash challenging for the NXT Women's title. So we'll see about that. So I think that's it for all the reviews. I believe it's about to go down with our final thing, which is news updates. Okay, first things first before I proceed. This is going to be the longest news updates I've ever done because, like I said, I'm not currently in country. Basically, I had to keep up from the time I left from San Diego to Tijuana all the way to here to Juarez. But nonetheless, I have been keeping up what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So let's find out what's been going on that you may or may not have been aware of. So, first things first, Impact Wrestling has announced they will be invading the UK. They will be doing a 3-day show at 3 different locations. They will be in Glasgow on the 26th of October, Newcastle on the 27th of October, and of course, Coventry on the 28th. It's still no word who will be participating, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also bring in British talent. That's something we can definitely expect. Promotion that will be launching later on in October, Kitsune Women's Wrestling has announced for new names have been announced. We have Johnny Robbie has been announced, Tara Sepp, Nicole Savoy, and of course our announce team has been announced. We have Alyssa Marino and Veda Scott. Veda Scott is one amazing commentary. I can't wait to see her. However, they already announced their first match for this particular show, and that is, of course, Masha Slavish taking on a mysterious opponent who is dubbed as X. So we don't know who it is. We'll just wait and see when that happens. Now, the All-Star Junior Festival USA on the 19th of August has announced 2 new entries. We're gonna have Lowrider. You may not be familiarized with them, but he is a wrestler based out of Texas and a good friend of Sammy Guevara. But the next entry, number 19, is none other the inimitable one, Ace Austin. But however, a match has been announced for this particular event. We have the Philly Cheesecake Cup 3-way ladder match. We have Rocky Romero teaming up with Hiromu Takahashi to take on Master Wato and Blake Christian versus Doki and Lowrider. So that's going to be good. NXT has announced for their upcoming event No Mercy at Bakersfield, California on the 30th of September. So that's going to be interesting. No mentions who's going to be involved, but we'll see about that. Now for our GCW updates, we have My Name Is that will take place on the 4th of August. Sawyer Wreck will be in action to take on one of Charles Mason's mercenaries, Pero. As you know, Mason has been attacking Wreck and Janela recently, but this is going to be interesting. Now for GCW's update in Tijuana, the Lucha de Explosive that will take place on the 13th of August, they announced Baby Extreme will be involved. Next and final update for GCW, the Sad You Will on the 1st of September, it was announced Nick F. Gage will be in action to take on Hijo del Vikingo. So that's going to be a good match. Marvelous has announced for an upcoming title match on the 7th of August at Korakuen Hall. Our current champion Miyu Momono will be in action to defend her title against the leader of Ozaki-gun and promoter of Asa Academy, Mayumi Ozaki. Now recently, Asa Academy has invaded Marvelous, and of course Mayumi is so intrigued by Momono, who is a tough girl. I have to say, she has shown her toughness since winning the AEW championship. Dustin Rhodes, as you know, you may have heard, apparently there was reports coming up that his AEW contract will be up by the end of this month or by this month. I'm not sure, but we'll see what the future lies for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires sooner, but we'll see. For the JCW match for Dog Day afternoon on the 26th of August, it was announced One Call Manders will be in action to take on Kevin Blackwood. Now, interesting news from NWA for their NWA 75 show later on. As you may have heard, EC3 has relinquished the NWA National Heavyweight Championship, and he's gunning for the 10 pounds of gold, better known as the MLW, the NWA World Heavyweight title against Tyrus. However, Tyrus made this interesting comment. If he loses to EC3, he will be retiring. I know some fans who hate Tyrus Would love nothing to see that, but this is huge for him to say that. So we'll see where that goes. Now, Pro Wrestling Noah has announced for about Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. As you all know, he will be participating in the N1 Victory, which is their version of the G1 Climax. However, he mentioned that he will be wearing a all-white mask, a mask that you may or may not know. His grandfather, Dr. Wagner, his original mask was all white, and he wants to find a way to honor his grandfather. Very great of him to do something like that, but we'll see how that goes. I can't wait to see how that will be for him. Now, we have seen impressive long reign championships for a long time. More specifically, WWE has announced it. However, this one is a very good one that was mentioned for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, if you all know, Gunther currently has 415 days as the Intercontinental Champion. However, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history is none other than the Honky Tonk Man, Jerry Lawler's cousin. His reign was up to 453. So as we speak, I believe Gunther has 415, I believe. So if he's pulling off, he probably will surpass Honky Tonk Man. That is something we definitely could see. I mean, he has been the longest reigning NXT UK champion. So that is a possibility that could happen. Now, you may remember, for all you Tokyo Yoshi Pro Wrestling fans, this particular Yoshi wrestler, Azura Takigawa. You may remember her as the nun from the Neo Bishikugun. She just announced that she gave birth to her son. Her son is born healthy and all that, but she did mention that she had a C-section when it happened, but she's happy to report that she and her baby are healthy and well taken care of. And of course, the roster from both promotions, from Tokyo Pro Wrestling and DDT, left beautiful comments congratulating her, saying how cute the baby looks. And of course, Shinjiro Takagi, who's like a proud father, seeing, Takigawa give birth to a child. She said she can't wait to meet him. And of course, she said that she would like to have him be strong as him. I mean, Takagi has been like a father figure to certain wrestlers in Tokyo Pro Wrestling, but I have to say, very touching from that. So, we'll keep updates on how she's doing now. Now, an interesting interview from Tokyo Pro Wrestling with our favorite pirate princess, Kairi. As you know, recently we know Kairi is the first ever IWGP Women's Champion. She lost that belt to Mercedes Moné. Apparently, she mentioned how she's encouraging former NXT talent Saraya, or as we know her in Japan, Suri. She's encouraging her to go for the IWGP Women's title. I mean, Suri has talked about this, but Rossi did say, come to a Stardom show. So I would say do what Rossi asked, but we'll see how that turns out. PW Insider announced that Chris Hero has been signed with AEW as a producer. So it's very interesting. I don't know if he will be able to wrestle. I mean, we have seen Pat Buck already, but I think that was only 1 or 2 matches, but I don't know. We'll see. Tokyo Yoshi Pro Wrestling has announced for 2 new trainees. First one, her name is Chika. Let me spell that name for you guys. Chika. Now that's going to be a temporary name for now. The only information that's revealed about her, she is from the Osaka Prefecture. She's only 19 years old. Now, the next trainee, her name is Kira, another temporary name. She is from Australia. She's only 26 years old. Now, we don't know when will these ladies will be, in fact, be debuting, but I'm sure we will be seeing them soon in the ring. West Coast Pro has announced that one of their very own, Sandra Moon, will be heading to Japan. She'll be training and working with Marvelous. I'm sure she's going to have a blast hanging out with Shigazo Nagayo. I have to say that's going to be fun. Prestige Wrestling has announced for the Roseland 6 event on the 1st of September, we're going to have a showdown between the Motor City Machine Guns. Alex Shelley, who is the current Prestige Wrestling champion, will defend his title against his tag partner, Chris Sabin. So that's going to be a good one to hear. Now, Wrestling Observer has announced that, of course, Thunder Rosa, who's been out of action for almost a year, has been training back in the ring. She has been down in her hometown of San Antonio, Texas. She has this guy named Shoichi Funaki who's been helping her train. So don't know who the guy is, but that's good that she's getting back on a horse. Our final updates are regarding from Fightful Select, what they announced. Our first one, there's been plans by AEW for their Wembley Stadium show, All In. They like to have Will Ospreay to challenge the Ocho, the Demigod, the Wizard, however you want to call him, Chris Jericho to be challenging each other at. Now, it's still not 100% confirmed if this is going to happen, but it would be a good match to watch. Now, sad news regarding of All In. Many of us have expected the former AEW Women's Champion, Jamie Hayter, return, but apparently it seems like it's not going to happen. She is still out of injury. Most likely will miss out the rest of 2023. So we'll see what that goes. Now, you remember this WWE talent named Summer Rae. Don't know what her real name is now, but she has mentioned in Fightful Select that she said she would like to work as a manager for the Lucha Brothers and Orange Cassidy. Now, we haven't seen her in WWE for a while, but I would like to say it would be interesting to see how her environment in AEW works, but nothing yet if AEW are interested. Now, our last but not least, this was announced that AEW has filed a trademark name, AEW Plus. Turns out to be a streaming category. So basically, AEW will have a streaming service. So there's been talk about that for a long time since AEW first launched, but it would be a great idea for them to have it. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll see. So I think that's pretty much it what we have for our news updates. But for now, let's just call it a day. Okay. As I said before, I'm not even in the U.S. at the moment. I'm currently down south in Mexico. If you guys might have heard the noise, that's my mother on that side. Say hi, Mom.
Hi, mijo.
That's my mom goes. So I'm here with her on the trip. Short story, we wanted to surprise my uncle for his birthday. So his birthday was... It was this past Wednesday, which was the 25th of July. So my mom thought we should just come down here and visit. And that's why you see the background a little different from the previous video. So we're right now in a nice hotel in Waima, so we're enjoying ourselves. So we're gonna go out party real soon. So that's why I'm doing this video for you guys. We won't be leaving Guaymas until the following day. So today is the 29th of July. So we will not be catching our bus that will be heading back to Tijuana and back to San Diego. So officially today, since today is Saturday, the 29th, I won't be reviewing AEW Collision until I get back. And I think we do have something else coming up. Oh yeah, the Great American Bash. I won't be able to do that until. So I will be reviewing all of those on a Monday, I believe, and release the video on a Tuesday. So By the time this video is out, it should be either Saturday or Sunday, however things go, because like I said, I'm gonna go party real soon. But nonetheless, I got everything done. So until next time, I'll let you guys know when I'll be coming back to my hometown. So for now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.